Hello guys, welcome to Folktales where interesting stories are told. If you're new here, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, and of course, drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Your voice matters here. Tiana E stepped out of the black airport shuttle and took a deep breath. The sweet blend of pine trees and fresh mountain air filled her lungs as she gazed up at the grand arched entrance of Lakeview Haven Resort. The name glittered in gold lettering across the entrance canopy, majestic and proud. Hidden behind those serene walls and glass windows was a secret she'd held close for 3 years now. She owned this place. She adjusted her sunglasses and wheeled her minimalist suitcase over the cobbled driveway. Her heart beat a little faster, not from nerves, but from anticipation. This was the moment she had waited for, not to boast, not to retaliate, but simply to watch how they'd treat her when they thought she was just another ordinary guest. Her family reunion was an annual affair, usually loud, lavish, and emotionally exhausting. The Eases were not the warmest of clans. Appearances mattered. Net worths were casually mentioned over brunch like football scores. Her Aunt Mildred, the self-proclaimed matriarch, had a habit of ranking family members based on job titles, salaries, and home sizes. Tiana had stopped trying to impress them long ago. As the founder and CEO of Haven Hospitality Group, she had quietly amassed a portfolio of boutique hotels and luxury lodges across Nigeria and Kenya. She rarely talked about her work in family circles, partly because no one cared to ask, and partly because she had come to enjoy her anonymity. Inside the lobby, the energy buzzed. Laughter, greetings, fake hugs, and side eyes bounced around the space like bubbles in a glass of soda. The bellboys nodded politely as she entered, fully briefed by management to treat her like any guest at her request. No titles, no whispers, no red carpet. Name? Asked the check-in girl sweetly, eyes on the computer. Tiana Ease, she replied, setting her ID on the counter. Oh, the receptionist's smile flickered just a bit, catching the last name. You're with the Ease family block. One moment please, she typed rapidly, hesitated, and then picked up the guest map. Room 108 here, she said, circling a corner at the back of the property. It's cozy, queen-sized bed, a bit of a walk from the main suites. Tiana nodded slowly. So they'd gone through with it. Just behind her, a familiar voice rang out like a cracked bell. Please tell me I got the Lakeview suite again. Came Julia's whine, the favorite cousin, clad in designer loungewear and fake lashes thick enough to block sunlight. I can't sleep if I hear pipes creaking like last time. Julia. Tiana turned and gave a small wave. Oh, hey. Julia muttered with an awkward half-smile. Didn't know you were coming. Of course she did. Julia had personally overseen the room assignments weeks ago. According to an email thread Tiana's assistant had intercepted, Tiana made her way to room 108. The hallway grew narrower and darker as she walked. Cobweb-free and polished, yes, but noticeably more modest than the suites near the spa or pool deck. When she opened the door, the scent of lemon disinfectant greeted her. The room had a small bed pushed against the wall, a fan that rattles when turned on, and a bathroom with chipped tiles. Not terrible, but nothing like the airy rooms upstairs with floor-to-ceiling windows and rainforest showers. She stood still for a moment, letting the reality settle in. They had chosen this room for her. Intentionally, and they thought they were. Being subtle, at dinner, she sat near the far end of the table. Her cousins clinked champagne glasses and passed selfies around. Aunt Mildred barely glanced at her. So, Tiana, Uncle Roy said between mouthfuls of grilled sea bass. Still running that. What's it called in? It's a hotel group, she said calmly, sipping her water. Haven Hospitality Group. He nodded vaguely, more interested in the wine pairing. Meanwhile, Julia boasted about her new role in executive marketing leadership at a brand she joined 2 months ago. That's amazing, Aunt Mildred gushed. Honestly, between you and Thomas, our family is just killing it in the professional scene. Tiana smiled politely, poking at her roasted vegetables. She could have corrected them. Could have told them how Forbes Africa listed her in their top 30 under 30 for her innovative hospitality model. But instead, she chewed slowly and listened. Later that night, as she lay on the squeaky bed in room 108, she reflected. She wasn't surprised. Not really. For years, she had watched them ignore her achievements, watching them exclude her from decision-making. The first year she started her hotel business, Aunt Mildred joked that she was playing housekeeper. That joke became a family punchline. It had hurt then, but not anymore. Now it amused her, because they were sleeping in rooms she designed, built, and maintained. Rooms they thought were too expensive for someone like her to own. The next morning, the group gathered for breakfast at the rooftop terrace. The view was breathtaking, mist hovering over the lake, with birds swooping low over the water. The kind of morning that made you pause and whisper, "Wow." Tiana poured her coffee and took a seat beside her quiet cousin Nina, who worked as a nurse in Owerri. Nina was one of the few who asked her real questions. "I heard this resort is owned by some Nigerian businesswoman," Nina said thoughtfully. "One of the youngest in the industry." Tiana blinked, then smiled. "You heard that?" Nina nodded. "Yeah. Her story was on a LinkedIn newsletter last week. Something about how she started from a small guest house." Tiana's smile deepened. "Interesting. Must be a brilliant woman." By midday, family members had booked spa sessions, massage appointments, and a guided hike through the nature trails, all under discounted family rates. Tiana noticed how Julia complained when the massage therapist didn't add extra eucalyptus oil. Meanwhile, Aunt Mildred berated a young staff member for bringing warm water instead of chilled, sparkling water. "She needs more training," Mildred said loudly, glancing at her sisters. "Standards are slipping." Tiana's hands curled into fists. Not because they were criticizing her staff, but because they were doing it so casually, so condescendingly, in a space she had built with intention and love. But still, she said nothing. Not yet. That evening, she discovered the final insult. While chatting with Nina in the courtyard, she learned that the entire family had been invited to an exclusive wine and cheese pairing dinner except her. They said it was for the adults handling finances, Nina said, eyes narrowing. "Like, what does that even mean?" Tiana laughed quietly. "It means they think I don't belong." But deep inside, something shifted. She wasn't angry. She was ready. For years, she had let them define her, box her into roles, laughing off her achievements. But tomorrow, the game will change, and when it did, no one would see it coming. The next morning, the sun rose lazily over the lake, casting golden ripples across the water's surface. Birds chirped in the distance, and the resort slowly came to life. Tiana was already awake, dressed in a simple cream blouse and denim jeans, sitting in the open-air lounge with a steaming cup of tea. Her thoughts were calm but sharp, like the edge of a steel blade. She didn't need revenge. What she needed was clarity for them. Let them expose themselves first. Let them write their own roles in the story, and when the curtain finally lifted, no one would be able to deny what they had done. At breakfast, Julia strolled in late, flanked by her brother Theo and cousin Maxine. They were laughing at something on Julia's phone. As soon as they saw Tiana, the giggling intensified. She didn't flinch. "Oh my gosh, Tiana," Julia said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I still can't believe you're staying in that closet at the back. Is the ceiling still leaking?" Theo smirked. "Hope you brought an umbrella for nighttime." The table chuckled lightly, including Aunt Mildred, who pretended not to hear. Tiana gave a small smile and sipped her orange juice. "It's cozy," she said simply. "I'm learning a lot." Julia blinked, confused by the lack of reaction. "Well, I mean, you're always the humble one," she added, a tinge of sarcasm under her breath. After breakfast, the group boarded the shuttle bus to a nearby vineyard. Tiana decided to stay back. She wanted to inspect the resort quietly, not as the boss, but as a guest. She walked through the spa, watched the massage team prep their oils, peeked into the maintenance rooms, and gave the head chef a silent thumbs up through the kitchen window. No one in the family knew how much work she'd poured into every corner of this place. From the custom bamboo linens to the eco-conscious plumbing system, she had built this resort with both passion and purpose. She had taken care to hire locals, pay fairly, and offer training programs for young hospitality graduates. But none of that mattered to people like Julia or Aunt Mildred. They measured worth by handbags and hashtags. Later that afternoon, she returned to her room to find her bed sheets tossed aside and damp patches reappearing on the ceiling. She chuckled under her breath. The irony was thick. She could have had the owner's suite with one phone call, but this was richer. Just then, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Nina. "Nina, they're having a wine dinner now. Julia just said it's invite only to avoid tag-alongs." Tiana stared at the message for a moment, then replied, Tiana, perfect. Let them enjoy themselves. Everything's unfolding nicely. She put down her phone, changed into a robe, and walked herself to the spa. The staff greeted her like any guest. No special treatment. Just warm, respectful smiles. Deep tissue massage? The receptionist asked kindly. Yes, please, Tiana replied. And don't hold back. Meanwhile, back at the wine dinner, the air was thick with perfume and pretension. Julia was in her element, swirling her glass and repeating words she barely understood. This vintage is so forward, she said, nodding like a connoisseur. Theo nudged Maxine. I bet Tiana's eating instant noodles back there. They all laughed. Uncle Chuka raised his glass. To family, he toasted, smiling widely. And to those of us leading the charge in real success. Aunt Mildred smirked. Indeed. Legacy builders. Tiana's absence was noted only in passing, brushed off as irrelevant. But one thing was clear. They didn't value her because they didn't want to. They had decided long ago who she was. The next morning, Tiana came down for breakfast early, again. The sky was still pink, and the resort was quiet. She walked the grounds, stopped at the koi pond she had installed 2 years ago, and watched the fish dart through the water. A soft breeze rustled the trees, and the peace wrapped around her like a shawl. Ma'am, a voice called gently behind her. It was the general manager, Mr. Ahmed. Are you still comfortable pretending to be a guest? For now, she smiled. One more day? Then we give them the show. He nodded respectfully. Understood. The staff are ready. Thank you, she said. And please, make sure the invoices are itemized. No family discounts. Later that morning, during the family's yoga session on the lawn, Tiana joined quietly, setting her mat at the edge. Julia threw her a puzzled look. You do yoga? I do peace, Tiana replied. The instructor began, guiding the group through breathing exercises. Tiana focused on every inhale, every stretch. Her body felt lighter with each moment. She was no longer burdened by needing their approval. She was simply herself. After the session, Maxine sauntered over with sunglasses perched on her head. You're surprisingly flexible for someone who works front desks all day. Tiana tilted her head. Surprisingly? Maxine laughed. Oh, I didn't mean anything. Just that. You know, your job isn't exactly physical. Tiana gave a short nod. I'll keep that in mind. The mockery kept coming in subtle. Drips, passive jabs, questions wrapped in faux concern, comparisons that seemed innocent but stung like thorns. At the group dinner that night, someone accidentally left her out of the seating chart. She was handed a folding chair. It's okay, she said gently. I don't mind being on the edge. She did mind. Not because of the seat, but because of what it represented. She was tired of being shoved aside from watching them pretend kindness while cutting her down every chance they got. But she wasn't going to fight them on their terms. Her stage was coming. Back in room 108, she stood in front of the mirror, looking at her reflection. Her eyes were calm, lips set with quiet determination. She thought about her late grandmother, who once told her, "Don't waste energy proving your worth. Build something so undeniable, even the blind will see it." Tiana had built it, and tomorrow, they will see it. All of it. The final morning of the reunion dawned with a shimmering golden hue as light filtered softly through the tall windows of Lakeview Haven. The air buzzed faintly with excitement. Today was the last full day of the family retreat, and a few high-profile activities had been planned. A luxury brunch, a group photo shoot near the lake, and a closing dinner under the stars. Most of the guests were already preening in front of their mirrors, selecting outfits that screamed wealth and status. Tiana, however, was different. She had never been more still. Sitting at the writing desk in her modest room 108, she slowly pinned a letter to herself. A ritual of sorts, something she did before every major business expansion. But this one felt more personal. She scribbled softly. Today, you show them not to impress them, but to remind yourself that you never needed their permission to shine. She folded the note, slipped it into her handbag, and stood up. Her outfit for the day was clean-cut, a crisp white jumpsuit with subtle gold embroidery across the shoulders. No designer logos, just quiet confidence. Her phone buzzed. Nina, brunch starts at 30. Julia just told everyone she might be recruited by a luxury brand in Paris. Tiana chuckled to herself. Julia always found a way to make everything about her, even in a group of 50 relatives. And the best part? She'd continue to do so until the story flipped. Today, it would the brunch. Long white tables were decorated with sunflowers and white porcelain. Platters of waffles, smoked fish, omelets, and fresh fruit decorated every corner. Waiters moved swiftly between guests, refilling mimosa glasses and offering delicate pastries. Tiana took a seat at the far end again. She didn't mind. She watched. Julia arrived dramatically late again, flanked by Maxine and Theo. "Okay, guys," Julia announced loudly. "Before brunch ends, we should definitely take a group photo on the balcony. I'll organize it, otherwise it'll be chaos." Tiana suppressed a smile. Let her organize it. It'll be perfect timing. At her end of the table, Aunt Mildred leaned toward Uncle Chuka. "I just feel like some people in the family need to try harder. You know, get real jobs. It's time to grow up." Uncle Chuka nodded. "Not everyone's cut out for success. There's always one or two creative types you just hope they don't end up in debt." Tiana overheard every word. She cut into her croissant delicately. "Can I get you more water, miss?" A waiter asked gently. "Yes, please," she smiled. Julia suddenly called out, "Tiana, would you mind taking the photo for us?" Everyone turned. There it was. The moment. The dismissal. Tiana stood slowly, walked over, and lifted her phone. "Smile," she said softly. They did. And then, she turned the camera to face herself. "I think I'll be in this one too." They blinked. "Oh, okay," Julia muttered. Tiana handed her phone to the photographer from the resort's media team, who had been waiting quietly at her signal. "Everyone, please face the camera. This is about to be a moment." Click. The shutter snapped, and before anyone could scatter, the general manager, Mr. Ahmed, stepped forward and cleared his throat. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said politely, "may I kindly request your attention? On behalf of our entire staff at Lakeview Haven, we want to express our gratitude for your presence. This family has been a pleasure to serve." Light applause. "But before you all head out to your next activities, we've been asked to share a small announcement." Heads turned. Confused murmurs rippled across the group. Mr. Ahmed stepped aside and gestured to Tiana. "Tiana is not just one of our guests. She is the sole founder and owner of Lakeview Haven Resort. She is also the CEO of Haven Hospitality Group, which manages 11 properties across Nigeria and East Africa." Silence. Not stunned silence, gutted silence. Maxine's jaw literally dropped. Julia blinked repeatedly, unsure whether to laugh or panic. Aunt Mildred's wine glass wobbled slightly in her hand. Only Nina clapped once. Twice. Then slowly more. Hands followed. Tiana smiled. "I want to thank you all for coming to my resort," she said calmly. "I hope you've been comfortable." She stepped forward with grace and quiet authority. "I wanted to experience this reunion from a different lens. So, I asked my staff not to reveal my position. I wanted to see how I'd be treated, not as the resort owner, not as someone with influence, but as simply Tiana, your cousin, your niece, your family." She let her words breathe. "What I experienced," she continued, "was enlightening." Julia looked like she might throw up. Uncle Chuka shifted uncomfortably. "But I'm not here to embarrass anyone. I just want to make one thing clear. Respect should never be tied to status. It should be tied to character." A beat passed. Then she added, "And lastly, I've instructed the accounting department to prepare individual bills for each family unit. The group discount has been revoked. Everyone will be billed for exactly what they consumed: spa sessions, wine tastings, suite upgrades, everything." A wave of gasps swept through the group. "Wait, what?" Aunt Mildred said, standing. "That's not fair." Theo added, "We agreed on the group rate." Tiana tilted her head. "Yes, back when we were all equals at the table." Julia's voice cracked. "Is this revenge?" "No," Tiana replied. "This is reality. The resort has policies. I'm simply honoring them." Mr. Ahmed stepped in again. "Invoices will be sent to your rooms this evening. Payment is due before checkout tomorrow morning." The group began to murmur in disbelief, but Tiana had already walked away. She didn't need to watch them unravel. She needed fresh air. She stepped out onto the resort's boardwalk. The lake sparkled in the late afternoon light. Nina joined her a few minutes later. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered. Tiana smiled. I didn't do it for pride. Then, what for? For peace. And for the first time that weekend, her shoulders relaxed. Back inside the resort, Julia was pacing. I cannot believe she did that. Did anyone know she owned this place? Aunt Mildred was quiet now, no longer the loudest voice at the table. Maxine groaned. You guys, we've been trash-talking the owner. We're going to end up in a TikTok story time. Julia sat down, pale. She made us look stupid. No, Nina said, stepping into the room. You made yourselves look that way. She just turned on the lights. The resort was no longer abuzz with carefree laughter. The air, once laced with mimosas and entitlement, now bristled with unease. Words like she owns this, and does this mean we're paying full price, floated around the corridors in hushed tones. The grand truth had landed like thunder. And just like that, every snide comment, every backhanded joke, every dismissive look they had given Tiana now echoed back at them tenfold. In her private corner office, formerly disguised as an unmarked guest, sweet Tiana reviewed the payment reports. As they rolled in, her staff was swift, polite, and unapologetically firm. Guests who had laughed at her just 24 hours ago now pleaded at the front desk for itemized breakdowns, some even accusing the staff of price inflation. But she had instructed them clearly. No exceptions. No apologies. Not anymore. She walked through the lobby with silent elegance, her heels tapping softly against the marbled floor. Unlike before, heads now turned in her direction not with amusement or pity, but reverence. Some were too embarrassed to make eye contact. Others gave her forced smiles, which she returned with brief, measured nods. Morning, Miss Ease. One of the housekeepers greeted her cheerfully, handing her the updated suite keys. Thank you, Ifioma, Tiana said warmly. She turned the golden key in her hand, and it belonged to the presidential suite. Time to move out of room 108. She left that hallway without a backward glance. Later that afternoon, she hosted a private lunch for her parents in the elegant garden lounge, away from the rest of the family. It was one of the few times she let herself relax. Her father looked around with eyes wide, marveling at the landscaping. You designed this? He asked. Every plant. Every stone path, she said. Her mother squeezed her hand. Why didn't you ever tell us, Tiana? I wasn't sure you'd understand. Or be proud. Her father blinked back tears. We didn't raise you to seek permission. We raised you to stand. I know, she whispered. I just needed to stand on my own terms. Meanwhile, chaos unfolded at the guest services desk. Julia argued over her spa charges, which had tripled with the revoked group discount. I only booked the oxygen facial because I thought it was complimentary. She snapped. The receptionist remained calm. As stated in the terms, all a la carte treatments are individually charged. Theo's bill included minibar restocking fees, room service for 5, and 2 private boat rides. What boat rides? He yelled. Sir, you signed off on them at the dock. Julia turned to Aunt Mildred. We're being punished. No, dear, came a voice from behind. At it was Uncle Chuka, frowning deeply. We're just facing consequences. Tiana watched from the mezzanine level, sipping hibiscus tea as family members scrambled to adjust their narratives. Some tried to save face. Others sulked. Aunt Mildred finally approached her. You should have told us, she began with a tight smile. This could have been a beautiful collaboration. Imagine a family working together. Tiana placed her cup down and stood. Mildred, for years, you've laughed at me. Called me the hotel girl. You once said I'd end up cleaning toilets. Now that the toilets belong to me, you want a seat at the table? Aunt Mildred swallowed hard. I was trying to protect you. You were always different. Yes, Tiana said. Different, but not invisible. The family photo shoot by the lake took place later that evening, with a bit less enthusiasm than before. Everyone showed up, freshly dressed, but visibly shaken. They stood awkwardly, their previous energy dimmed. Tiana stood front and center now, not because she demanded it, but because everyone finally saw her. The photographer clicked several shots before saying, let's get one with the family leader. In the middle, Julia looked left, then right. But no one moved. Tiana stepped forward, and nobody objected. The camera clicked again. A new memory was being captured, one they'd never forget. The golden hour dipped below the horizon. The family gathered under lantern-lit tents for the farewell dinner. The atmosphere was quieter, less showy. More introspective, Tiana stepped onto the small platform beside the string quartet and took the microphone. "Thank you all for being part of this reunion," she began. "It's been enlightening." "Hey." Few chuckles. "Nervous ones. I want to clarify something," she continued. "This wasn't a prank or an attempt to embarrass anyone. It was a mirror. I just held it up. What you saw in it, that's yours to wrestle with." She let that settle, but I also saw something in myself. Strength, peace, and finally, the power to stop shrinking. She looked directly at Julia, Theo, Maxine, then at Aunt Mildred and Uncle Chuka. "I don't need apologies. I don't even need understanding. What I need is honesty and respect." Nina stood up and clapped first, then her parents. Then, slowly, the entire room joined. Some clapped out of guilt, others out of genuine admiration. But the noise swelled with sincerity. Tiana stepped down, hugged her parents, and smiled at the sky. Tomorrow, she would leave this resort as its owner once more, but this time, no longer hidden, no longer underestimated. That night, she returned to the presidential suite. It had palatial golden drapes, a private balcony with a view of the lake, a hot tub, and a library nook. Her assistant had already moved her things in. Room 108 was a memory now, one she'd never forget. As she curled up in the armchair beside the window, she opened her handbag and unfolded the note she'd written that morning. "You never needed their permission to shine." She smiled. Her light was on. Morning mist curled along the edges of Lakeview Haven as the final day of the reunion quietly settled in. Birds skimmed the water. The air held a peculiar calm, like something had ended and something new was beginning. Tiana stood at the balcony of the presidential suite, her silk robe fluttering slightly as she sipped her tea and took it all in. The past few days had felt like peeling off layers of old skin. There had been laughter, yes, but also hurt. Deep hurt. And yet, in revealing herself, she hadn't crumbled. She had risen. And now, it was time to close the chapter, but not without boundaries. By mid-morning, most of the family had gathered for the final checkout. The once vibrant lobby had turned stiff with tension. Guests stood in line, receipts in hand, mouths tight. The jovial tone that marked their arrival had vanished. Tiana descended the stairs quietly. Heads turned again, but this time, they didn't look away. They watched her with a mix of awe and quiet guilt. Some couldn't meet her eyes. "Miss Ease," the receptionist called. "Your car is ready. The driver will wait as long as you need." "Thank you, Ada," Tiana said with a soft smile. She moved to a nearby lounge chair and opened her laptop. She wasn't in a hurry. Let them squirm. Maxine was the first to approach. She started, her voice unsteady. "I owe you an apology. I've been awful. We've all been." Tiana looked up calmly. "Why now?" Maxine blinked. "Because. Now I know better." Tiana nodded slowly. "And will you treat the next person in room 108 with respect?" Maxine looked ashamed. "Yes, I will." Tiana softened. Then maybe this wasn't a waste. They embraced, not tightly, but genuinely. Then came Julia. Julia's confidence had crumbled. Her heels clicked slower than usual as she walked toward Tiana, shoulders tense, hands clasped like a child bracing for discipline. "I don't know what to say," she muttered. Tiana stared at her. "Do you regret what you did, or do you regret being exposed?" Julia hesitated. "Both." Tiana raised a brow. "I've been insecure for a long time," Julia continued. "You were always quiet, and I mistook it for weakness. You were building while I was posing." Tiana nodded. "You're not the only one." Julia's voice cracked. "Is there still space for me in your life?" Tiana stood, walked up to her, and paused. "There's space for the real you, not the version who needs to step on people to feel tall." Julia swallowed hard. "Then I'll try." Aunt Mildred didn't apologize. Instead, she offered a thin smile and said, "You've done well. Maybe next year, you can teach us." Tiana gave a calm reply. "Next year, I may not attend." "Oh, I'm curating who gets access to my piece now." Aunt Mildred's face twitched slightly. "Of course." As the matriarch turned and walked off, Tiana felt no anger, just distance. Sometimes, growth meant accepting that not every relationship needed repair. Some just needed release. In the afternoon, the resort shuttle buses lined up, bags were wheeled out, and goodbyes floated through the air. Uncle Chuka pulled Tiana aside. "What you did, that took guts." If you ever want to explore franchising in Abuja, I have connections. We could work together." Tiana smiled. "Thank you. I'll think about it. But only if the partnership is rooted in mutual respect, not favors." He nodded. "Fair enough." And just like that, another mask slipped away. As the final shuttle rolled out, Tiana walked slowly through the resort one last time. She passed the koi pond, the yoga lawn, the little art gallery hallway, where her favorite abstract painting hung. So much of her heart lived in this place. So many memories are both beautiful and bruising. She met with her staff briefly, thanked them for their professionalism, and reminded them of her pride in their work. Then, with a sense of finality, she made her way to her car. "Where to, madam?" the driver asked, holding the door. "Home," she said, but with one stop. An hour later, she arrived at her parents' bungalow in the quiet outskirts of Enugu. Her mom opened the gate in house slippers, surprised. "You didn't tell us you were coming back today." "I needed to feel home," Tiana said, stepping inside. Her father came out with a warm grin. "Our hotel tycoon returns." They sat under the mango tree in the backyard, sharing roasted plantains and ice-cold zobo. No judgments, no comparisons, just laughter, teasing, and warmth. "You're proud of me?" she asked softly. "We always were," her mother replied. "We just didn't know how to show it right." Tiana leaned against her father's shoulder. "Then I guess we all learned something this weekend." Back at the resort, the housekeeping team entered room 108. They opened the window, cleared the sheets, and made the bed for the next guest. The leaky ceiling would be fixed that week. What they didn't know was that room 108 would remain in the resort's training manual forever, marked as a symbol of humility and transformation. Tiana had told her managers to never remove it, because sometimes the worst room could teach the best lessons. And so, the girl who once felt invisible left the reunion not just seen, but known. She didn't need revenge. She needed truth. And she had delivered it with grace, with boundaries, and most importantly, with love for herself. Because respect wasn't a gift, it was a line you drew in the sand and dared others not to cross. And Tiana had drawn hers with gold. Moral lesson: sometimes, the people closest to you are the slowest to recognize your worth. But that doesn't mean your worth is any less. Respect isn't something you beg for. It's something you embody. Tiana's story reminds us that being underestimated is often a hidden advantage, and that your quiet growth speaks loudest when the world least expects it. If you've ever felt overlooked, trust this: your light is still shining. Keep building. Keep rising. Keep choosing peace over pettiness. You've got this. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Folktales, share it with your friends, and comment below with your biggest lesson.